Hi, I'm Erin Coopey, the Glorified Home Chef, and this month I have my friend Adam, who is a student of mine, who is here to be my Glorified Home Chef of the month. And Adam is going to be making a family dish of his called Moroccan chicken. And Adam, why don't you tell us how you came up with the recipe?
Sure. I can't say that I came up with a recipe. It's actually a family recipe. My grandmother traveled around when she was, I guess, my age, and found this recipe in Morocco and passed it on to my mom, and I just grew up with it.
That is so cool, isn't that great? As far as a foreign food goes, in general, Moroccan food uses a lot of spices and flavors and vegetables that we're used to here in the United States, but they combine them in totally different ways. Like we never think about combining cinnamon and onions, for example, but it's so good together. And that spice with the sweetness, I'm just really excited. So we're going to get started right now prepping all the ingredients, and we're doing something called mise en place. You didn't know you were doing it, but you were an expert. So we're going to cut up all the vegetables and the chicken, and then we'll get going cooking. Adam is cutting these peppers in pretty thick batons, which is like a bâtonnet, only bigger. And the reason that he's doing that is these are going to be in the pot a little longer, so having a thicker cut vegetable is going to mean that they kind of keep their consistency as we're cooking them a little bit longer.
And so now we're just going to make some even vertical cuts. Right down here. You don't want to cut all the way to the back of the onion because it will fall apart when you're doing your dice.
Excellent. Good advice.
Right. And then we're just going to come right across in nice even dice.
That's perfect. So the reason that we don't make those horizontal cuts on that onion is, again, because it just kind of starts to fall apart when we do that. So this is a perfect technique, just kind of chopping these guys up, and you get a nice dice. And
when you get to the butt end, you just
treat it separately. Go back
dice
in
it
and
up
chop it up. Yep. So Adam, when you make this dish at home, you use a cheese grater.
Yeah,
and
of
you
course.
try to get long kind of grates, right? So when
Yeah.
we talked about doing this, I thought it might be fun to create this julienne cut, these long strings with the mandolin. And so you don't have to have a big fancy mandolin like this. You can have, you know, a little ceramic one. But the one mistake that people make when they're working with a mandolin is they want to apply, well, there are a couple mistakes. People can cut themselves. So always use a guard. But people want to apply a lot of downward pressure. But what happens with a vegetable is there's so much water that it creates a suction kind of effect. And so what I would suggest when you're using a mandolin is you concentrate on pushing away toward the blade like this, as opposed to pressing really hard down. So let's just do that. I'm just going to pull away toward the blade, and just like that, we get some beautiful strings of zucchini.
Oh, those look so much better than what I usually have.
But we can use a box grater. We don't have to buy
buy
we
don't have no fancy.
But this is
mandolin.
fun because it's a nice, kind of texture. Vince and I sometimes have this as in place of spaghetti. So we do zucchini and yellow squash like this all the time.
It's beautiful.
Adam, you told me you cut this into what, like about a 3/4 inch dice?
Yeah, 3/4 inch dice, maybe even up to an inch. It depends on how much of a mouthful of chicken you want.
Adam cut the chicken into kind of nice even strips first, and then he's just turning it on the side here, and you can see just kind of dicing it up so that you get good bite-sized pieces. So the prep is all done, and now it's time to cook. And I happen to have a tagine because I do a lot of Moroccan cooking. And a tagine is the name of this kind of weird conical shaped vessel, right? But you don't have to have a tagine to make this recipe, because you said, Adam, you make it a lot in just like a Dutch oven.
Yeah, it's just a Dutch oven. This is another fun toy that Erin has that I get to experiment with. So we've brought the tagine up to medium-high heat and have a little bit, about a tablespoon of olive oil in there. It's just starting to shimmer, so we're ready to put our onions in. We should hear my favorite sound of cooking. Now you can see the onions are starting to sweat a little bit. It's been about 4 or 5 minutes or so, and it's time to put in our chicken here. Alright, so We are back. It's been another 5 to 7 minutes or so, and our chicken is nice and opaque. And so we're ready to pull the chicken and the onions off. We're just going to use a slotted spoon, and we're going to set this aside so that the onions and the chicken don't overcook. Take our green and red peppers in here, and I like to let them sit for just a minute or two to release before I put in the spices. And so I put in the cup of golden raisins. These are great. I'm not a huge regular raisin fan, but I love golden raisins. They're a little sweeter. Curry powder, or curry, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and just a 1/4 teaspoon of ground thyme in here.
Great. And a little bit of saffron too.
And yes, thank you. And a pinch of saffron. So you can see this is the point where we figure out if we need to add a little bit of water, and we also add in a single chicken bouillon cube. Add in a little bit of water here.
Okay. It smells really fragrant already. I love the way the cinnamon and the curry powder smell. That's just great.
And the last thing that we're adding in before we let this soften for a little bit is a cup of slivered white almonds, blanched almonds. You can use whole. The recipe calls for whole almonds. I couldn't find them in the grocery store.
We're going to go ahead and put the lid on this for just a couple minutes and let those peppers soften a little bit and let those flavors fuse.
Yeah, and I'm also going to turn down the heat just slightly from medium high to more of a medium heat.
Okay, perfect.
Been a couple of minutes here, and we're just going to take the top off of the tagine. Give this a little bit of a stir, and we're gonna bring in our onions and chicken. Stir this around before we put this back in here so that we, pick up all the spices and make sure that they get incorporated with the chicken, as well as again, with a little bit less liquid in there. Sometimes the spices will gather on the bottom of the tagine, so it's nice to pick up those flavors again. And put in just a touch more water to make sure we get some steam in there. And we are going to add the zucchini in. We're going to put this in for about 5 minutes because Erin had her mandolin, and so these zucchini strands are a little thicker than what I do at home. Put this right back on top and wait for about 5 minutes. We are ready to check our Moroccan chicken. It's looking great.
Oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. It's colorful and oh god, it looks so good.
See, we've got the zucchini is soft but not mushy here. We've got a little bit of that nice brightness from the red pepper, a little bit of the sweetness, and we are ready to eat.
All right, so it's time to taste. I can't tell you how I'm excited. It's so good. So again, I wish you could smell this. It's so fragrant. The cinnamon, the onions. I could smell the sweetness of the raisins and the bell peppers, and now it's time for the taste test. Okay.
My mom would be proud.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I took such a big bite and I'm enjoying it so much that frankly, I shouldn't be talking, but it is really lovely. There's, again, a subtle sweetness from the curry. It is so good. And one of the things that Adam mentioned was that this is such a quick dish to put together that you can really do this on a weeknight. Like you said, this was a Tuesday night dinner for Mom.
Tuesday night, my mom, like I said, worked, and this was a dish that we would have on a Tuesday night that she could prepare in an hour, and as you can see, there's definitely enough for leftovers.
Oh, absolutely. So. And full of vegetables, good lean protein. I mean, really, what more could you ask for? So, Adam, thank you so much for being my glorified home chef. Yay! Okay, well, join me again next month.